Welcome to the Stop Dieting podcast, hosted by best-selling, award-winning author and renowned weight loss expert, David Medansky. If you struggle to lose weight or you've lost weight and gained it back, you'll want to listen each week. Each week, you will learn tips for healthy weight loss without going on a diet, without having to follow an exercise program, without counting calories, or having to purchase special meals or products. The Stop Dieting podcast is more than just about healthy and sustainable weight loss. You will also learn how you can have more energy, feel better, get rid of brain fog, and improve your overall health. Stay tuned for another informative and insightful episode. And if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe and share this with your friends.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Stop Dieting. I'm your host, David Medansky, and I want you to get healthy on the other side of dieting. Today, our special guest is Glenda Kroll. Welcome, Glenda.
Well, hello, David. Thank you very much for bringing me on today. I'm excited.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you help people.
So I help people in very many different sectors of life. I call myself a global empowerment life coach. So, it's all about empowering yourself to be your best self. And it's not about what others say or think about you. And, in a dieting part of life, everything comes together as one. We can't become powerful in our own life if we don't feel secure within ourselves. And that can be our image. It can be how we feel we look, how we feel other people talk about us, from whatever sort it is. But we have to come back and step back and start to learn about us first. And, we're so busy knocking ourselves down. Now, even if you need to, I know you work on weight loss. And for many years, when I was a young girl, I was a bigger girl and I felt very uncomfortable in my own skin. And it took me years to figure out, I would say dieting, but it isn't dieting. And that's, I think, the first step of the whole stone is learning that it's a lifestyle change. And that's how we have to sort of perceive it. Because, what we put into ourselves is what we turn out to be, right? So, if we put in the exercise, we put in the good food that's going to nourish our bodies. So for me as a coach, it's about building people up to be their best selves. And we work on things as our image because, we only get, 3 seconds to make our first impression. And it's really important that we make that first impression a powerful one.
Actually, I think what I heard is that people make 14 different decisions about you within the first 7 seconds they meet you or see you. So that's interesting. What is your background? How did you get to be an empowering life coach?
Well, I guess it turns into being all the things that I've gone through in my life, those things that knock you down that kind of build you back up again. So going through my first divorce, I was married for 12 years. I have 2 beautiful children. I've manifested a lot of my life, and sometimes I manifested what I didn't want as well. Got involved in a relationship that actually felt like it knocked me down. It never built me up because, unfortunately, it was all about money. And money is important in our lives, but it shouldn't be taking over our lives. So, when I decided that this was not, I wasn't happy in the years, and I was actually lying to myself and lying to my children. And that's when I went through my divorce. I decided it's time. I gave everything that I had to change things, but it was only me changing. We can't make changes. We can't expect things from others. We have to can expect things from ourselves. And it was that point that I went through a divorce. Well, it turned out that my divorce lasted longer than my marriage. And I was being ripped into and out of court. And at one point, I was getting very frustrated because nobody was listening to me and my story and what my needs were, but my needs were for my kids. And so I decided at that point, I fired my lawyer and I went and I represented myself. And that's kind of when life changed. And that's when I started actually empowering myself because, earlier I always kept on thinking that I wasn't good enough and I couldn't do things. And that was the start of seeing where I could go and how actually I could start changing things.
So you were doing a lot of negative self-talk and beating yourself up a little bit. What I did learn in researching for my books was that 80% of our thoughts are negative. So just imagine if we can change that around, make 80% of our thoughts positive. And I guess that's where you come in and help people to do that.
Exactly. So we work a lot on self-talk and we start working on, the things that we sort of see in our minds. And I actually just did a video this morning of it because, we don't even realize, how we even talk to ourselves. We just talk to ourselves, I can't do this. I'm not strong enough. I'm too old. And I'm one to say, age really doesn't matter. And I can honestly talk to you from it at this point in my life. At this point, I'm 63 years young. I'm more feeling like I'm 45. I'm in great shape. I love life. I can create anything that I want in my life. And I have. I've created so many different types of areas of my life and businesses and started things that it's crazy. But I want to also go back to what people need to start to realize that even in their 50s, 60s and beyond, when they think that they can't do it and they think that, I can't start again or what's holding you back in your life, I want you to realize that you're never starting from where you were. You're already starting from the fact that you've got all this wisdom in you from what you've learned. So instead of looking at yourself of what like, oh my God, I have to start all over again, or how do I recreate myself? You're not recreating. You're actually starting from a full package. So it's just that we need to look at those things.
I'm glad you're talking about age and not letting that be an excuse, because as you know, I'm 67 and I just recently hiked Mount Kilimanjaro a couple months ago. So when people say, I'm too old to do something, I just look at them, or people who are younger than both of us will say, I feel old. I just like, why? Because there's no reason for it. We can adapt and change our lifestyles, as you mentioned, to become, more improved health, have more energy, better mental clarity. So people just need to take action and learn how to do it. You recently started a podcast with Nicole and Harvick and yourself.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
We want to just let people out. We want to start talking about being real in our lives. Let's look at ourselves really. Let's start taking ourselves from where we are. I believe that age is really a number. And I honestly say it, my life has just kept on growing and has been blossoming. 10 months ago, I was in a major accident that happened to me and I got really badly hurt and I couldn't walk. And, some people were, oh my gosh, how are you going to manage? And it's like right away when I hurt myself and I wasn't able to walk, I put a vision in my mind by the end of the summer, I was going to be walking again. And actually, I've been walking for the last couple of weeks because I believe and keep going forward. So Nicole and I wanted to start being real because we're both in the same age group. We want to talk about anything and everything. Let's get real about sex. Let's get real about dating. Let's just get real about life. We're not going to talk and make things look like rose-colored glasses. We want to be real about how life is approaching. And part of it is your mindset. And it is such a big part because when we start thinking and looking at things in a negative tone, it's going to affect us in our business, in our relationships, in our lives, and everything. We want to start talking about this with people and letting them look about it in a realistic view. So it's about creating that lifestyle that we know that you can have. It's all about just changing your mind accordingly so that it works for you. And everything is mindset in life.
What's the title of your podcast?
Let's Get Real.
Oh, okay. And where can the audience listen to you?
We're on Facebook Live at Wednesdays at 3 p.m. And you can look at it as I am Glenda Kroll or Nicole Harvick, and it's on both of our Facebook pages. And we come on, and then we're going to be incorporating that into a podcast down the road. So we just want to get real. We want to make sure that we can help people of letting them come on with us. It shows what's holding you back, what's stopping you. And we will be more than happy to coach them and start getting them down to learning that it's not about going downwards in life. It's about keep going up, keep believing in yourself. Let's keep moving forward. Life is about living.
Exactly. What do you find is the biggest challenge most people have that they come to you for help?
They don't believe in themselves. Somebody at some point in their life has told them a story that they have believed their entire life. And instead of pushing forward and past that and listening or looking what they can do, they have actually believed that one story. So it's that something when they're a little child that has stopped them, and they just let it, stop them from moving forward in their lives.
Yeah, that's a good thing that you brought up about what people say they can't do, because John Wooden, the UCLA basketball coach, had a quote where, and I'm paraphrasing, where he said, "Don't focus on what you can't do, focus on what you can do." And I think if people would focus on solutions rather than problems, they would eliminate a lot of their anxiety and issues and solve some of the problems they have, because again, they're focusing on the solutions.
Here's the thing is you have to figure out where you want to go. And I think that's where I start with most people is, what do you really want? And instead of starting to worry about how I'm going to get there and all the rest, start with a vision of really what you want. And then all you need to do is, what's your first step? And from that point on, things come to you. And that's where also a lot of coaching comes in, is helping you step through and figuring out where you want to come. And it's not coming from me. I teach you to dig in and to really feel it within yourself, because the answers are within you, not within me, but it's asking the right questions that really count.
Just out of curiosity, what would you say is the number one thing that people really want in their life?
It's really simple. They just want to be happy.
Well, okay. So what would make people happy? I'm curious, because in my area, most people say they want to be healthier and feel better. And yet I watch what they eat and what they do. And it's like, well, you're not doing the right things to become, healthier and have more energy and feel better. So I was curious as to what people come to you saying they really want other than happiness, because everybody wants to be happy. I mean, is it a financial thing? Is it a health thing? Is it relationship? What would you say is the little niche?
So, yeah, I think it's all sort of comes together. So what do they want? They want better relationships. So they don't realize sometimes what they're actually doing in that relationship to actually create it into a more of a negative instead of a positive, becoming more argumentative. Learning that you can't control and change people is really a huge thing. Take control for yourself. Look at what you're doing. Are you encouraging that person, that partner you're with? What type of a person are you? Are you fun to be with? Are you enjoying yourself? Let's look at our health. Are you increasing your health level by eating something's good? I'm not saying like, what, I have been able, I guess when I was about 23, or I was at my heaviest in my life. And then I changed my life at that point because I wasn't working out, I wasn't exercising, and I was just eating all the wrong foods. And it's just not that you have to always be eating the right foods. Yeah, you can enjoy some things, but how many times? Like if you've eaten that cake, instead of sitting back and continue on that pathway, enjoy it, have it, and then start all over again. But you don't have to be knocking yourself down for the next 2 days that you ate that cake. It's about picking up where you left off, start to do things that you will do. And I find it's a vicious circle. When you work out, you want to eat well. And when you eat well, you want to work out. So, add that to your life. But it's when you're feeling good, and that's part of feeling good is getting some exercise. And exercise, can be something really simple as walking. All through COVID, I didn't do anything but walk because the gyms were closed and everything. And I just started walking, and I did, most of my day. I started first thing in the morning, no matter what the weather was. And I walked at least 10,000 steps in that hour and a half. And I just started working in competing with myself. If it took me an hour and a half, the next day, let's bring the time down. So I walk a little faster than that. If you just do something as that, your body is not going to have the hard time. And it doesn't mean that you start out that way, even if it's 10 minutes in the morning. I'm a believer of little steps. Little steps accomplish huge things.
No, I agree with you on that. And in fact, Rebel Wilson, the actress, lost 77 pounds in a year simply by walking an hour a day. And another actress, Mindy Kaling, she talks about being physically active. And when she had a 10-minute break, instead of texting someone or go on social media, she would walk. And that's why I tell people, just be physically active, not necessarily exercise per se, because exercise for some people is a negative word. But if you're physically active, and walking is the simplest thing you can do, even if you do 10 or 15 minutes and you do it 4 or 5 times a day, break it up, you're getting an hour with, walking a day. And it doesn't have to be 10,000 steps per se. In fact, research shows it can be anywhere from 6,000 to 10,000 steps. So again, it's up to everybody's individual abilities and what they're comfortable with. And as you said, start slow. I know I do push-ups every day, and I started, with 5 or 10 and built up. And now, I do anywhere between 35 and 40 push-ups. And that's how people can, build up to. You just don't start doing things right away, because then you're going to be sore and painful the next morning, and you're not going to want to keep doing it. So that's great advice. Yeah.
Yeah. And that turns you right off. And the same thing with changing your meals and things like that. Start on by taking maybe one thing, like if you're drinking pop, take all the pop out of your thing and then just leave it like that for a week or two. And, maybe then add in, some water. Or I'm a big advocate of, I like clear soups that I drink sometimes even throughout the day, and that takes away the hunger. It just takes little tricks along the way, just by learning, and even about yourself. If we do even some positive affirmations, it really starts to sink into the subconscious mind. And that's where really everything that we need to work at. It's in our subconscious mind. So if we just keep on talking to ourselves in a positive mode every day, start to realize what you're saying to yourself. There has to be a bell in your own head. When you start to hear something negative, I want you to sort of yell to yourself, stop. And it's that one thing that we can change. So instead of saying, I can't do it, and maybe say to yourself, slowly, I will be able to come and do it. Find little ways of tweaking things. It's being aware. So that word awareness is so important. Being aware of really how you carry yourself, how you talk about yourself. Those little things is how we can make big changes in our life. And that's what I really want people to learn, is being aware of themselves, their talk, everything about them. And that's the greatest way to move and make changes in your life.
That's great. In fact, there's 3 words that people should never use. And those 3 words are but, try, and can't. And the reason being, when you say you try, you're lying to yourself. You're already going to fail. But you're just using a spin to change things, to give an excuse. And when you say can't, you're already defeated. So avoid those 3 words. Yeah.
And you also said one other word that you shouldn't be using, should.
Exactly. So I'm glad
Don't
you caught
should yourself.
Where can people get in touch with you?
Well, I'm on Instagram as The Wise Woman's Word. I'm also on Facebook. I am Glenda Kroll, Kroll. And if anybody wants to send me an email, it's info@glendakroll.com. Either way, message me and I'll be more than happy to talk with you. And I also always give a 45 to an hour free session to see if we're compatible, to see if I can help you to make changes that you want to in your life. And I'm here to build a better you.
Have you written any books yet?
I'm in one of the books. I'm actually sitting down and starting to write my own book, which will probably not be out for a little while yet because there's so much going on, and I'm not going to share everything right now, but yes, I have exciting things that are happening in the fall and coming up. And it's all about creating that person that you are and can be.
But that's great. So something the audience can look forward to as far as getting more information from you. What advice could you give the audience? What would be the number one tip that you usually tell people?
For me, it all starts with being grateful. Gratitude comes a long way. And I know it sounds so cliche, but, every day, even the morning that you wake up and that you can see the sun shining, it makes such a difference in your life. Positive mindset of believing that you are the world. If the sun isn't shining, you got to make your own sunshine.
Yeah, I agree with you about being grateful because I begin the day, being grateful. And I start in the morning saying, I'm grateful for what I have and what I shall receive. Grateful just for waking up
Exactly.
and having another day.
Absolutely.
What other information can you tell the audience about some maybe resources they can check out?
I have a few free ebooks and they can call me back, write to me and ask me for them. I give information for people that are thinking about divorce. And I believe that in life, you have to prepare yourself. So, when I was going through my divorce, and I've been in 2 long-term relationships, my second relationship that I went through actually started because I had this feeling that something wasn't right. And that's another story. I went through a detective mode and I actually found out that my partner of 14 years was very deceitful and he wasn't what he thought he was. So instead, when I knew that the relationship was over for myself because I had found out a lot of very nasty things, instead of leaving the relationship because I found out from what I went through the first time. So remember, we always learn from what we've been through. So instead of jumping out and starting that, I decided to get my act together and I organized my life before I left. So 9 months it took me to, I got a lawyer, I set up new bank accounts, did things through my business to organize. I found a new place to move to. None of this he was aware of. 9 months later, house sold, everything, my whole life was set up. And then once my house sold and I was able to have the money for my house and took most of the funds and put it away in my lawyer's trust account so we can properly negotiate. It was 9 months that it took me pushing myself, feelings all down, but organizing my entire life. And it was a very different way of, instead of feeling sad for myself and sorry, I took and I empowered myself and became a very different person. So I tell people a lot of times when you're going through things, take your heart out of the subject, whatever you're going through. And trust me, there's one of the hardest things is going through a divorce. Take your heart out and put on your business hat and start thinking. Because you know what? We have to organize ourselves properly when we're going through. It's a major life change. So I do have an ebook about that, of the steps and things that you can do to help yourself to start building yourself. But remember, in everything when we go through life, sometimes, our heart is what hurts us the most. And it actually creates us to have more failures or learns than becoming more empowered. So put your business hat on. I want you to start thinking in a logical way of things that you need to change to build, and stop asking yourself, how am I going to do it? Just ask yourself, what was my end goal that I'm looking to achieve? And then what's my first step that going forward to achieving that?
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, as you know, I'm a former divorce lawyer.
Yes.
So I understand what clients go through, and getting properly prepared is very important. And it's the emotional aspect. Like you said, take the emotions out of it and be a business person. I know that's difficult for a lot of people, because especially if they've been in a relationship or if they've been in an abusive relationship, and not necessarily physical. There's a lot of people that are emotionally and mentally abused by their spouse or significant other.
I have my own ways of teaching people, of bringing, that tiger out of you and learning where it is. It is very difficult, but it can be done. So it's about learning the secrets that you can start to change the way you think of things, change the way you look at things. Because when we change and we start looking at things a little differently, it can change our whole way, and what we perceive to be something that will be a negative, actually, it could be a very good positive for you. So instead of staying in a relationship, and lately I've been working with a lot of people, and especially women who are just newly divorced and trying to start off a life and thinking to themselves of what they're going to do. There's so much that you can do. And that's why I ask you to step back and look at yourself really carefully, because you have so much going for you. You just don't give yourself the chance and the respect that you actually do deserve.
And as you mentioned earlier, you like to manifest things, and you tell people to look at where they want to be and what they want to be. And I think that's great advice, because if people would focus on the end result, then the how and the why will come to them to get to where they want to go. Unfortunately, most people don't know what they want, because if you ask them, what do you want? They'll say, I don't know. Well, that's exactly what the universe is going to give you. So I like your approach that you teach people to figure out what they want and how they're going to manifest it, and give it time to develop. And the other thing with manifestation is you have to do some action. Unfortunately, the secret gave some misleading information saying if you just think about it, it'll happen. It doesn't work that way.
No, you have to do the work. So, if you really don't know even what you want, that's where I come in as well. We have some very long one-on-one discussions. I am putting together a group with other people that you can work on as well. But in the initial start off of everything, I like to spend time with people on one-on-one. And if it needs to be, especially for my first bringing into someone, my initial setup, I will really work with them for a couple of hours. So we really come down to the core things of really what you want. And we figure this out quite quickly within that time period, because that's really the sense of it all. And I really believe that so much of my life in the early parts that, I sort of had my own dreams, but a lot of times it was really my dreams for somebody else's. So it's why shouldn't we able to get and dream what we want to dream? And it's fine if you're in a relationship where you're happy and things are moving well, or maybe you're in a relationship that you're happy to be in, but maybe the relationship needs a little bit of tweaking. Everything and anything can be changed. It's just how you look at everything that you're going through. So, if you're not at a point right now where you're loving your life and leading the life that you really want, whether it's with that significant other or you want to start going forward into a different way, you can have whatever you want. It's just a matter of you've got to put some of the time and effort into it and start working it. And that's where I come in. Let's work together and figure out where you want to go, and let's get the steps in place, because that's what it really is entailing.
That's great. One of the things I like to advocate for people is to always be learning and reading. What book or author influenced you the most?
Probably Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Been reading that book for a while now. I am actually in a Napoleon Hill group, the actual people that represent Napoleon Hill. I started that many years ago because I didn't realize that I lived Napoleon Hill's life of Think and Grow Rich. I manifested things in my life like I talked about. Here's something I've just started sharing out. I have 2 children, and I'm very blessed that my kids are both adopted, and I manifested them. I have 2 brothers with special needs, so I understand people who are working with children with special needs. That's another one of my huge areas that I'm really talented in. And when I was younger, I always knew for some crazy reason that I was going to adopt a child. And we sent out letters for my first child, and we sent out 10,000 letters on a Thursday, and a Monday morning at 9:00, when I got to the office, there was a phone call from a doctor having a child. And, the thing went up and down for the 9 months, but it turned in that very first phone call was my child. And it's crazy to think, you send out letters and your child just comes to you. And it was like, I always told my children, you drop from the sky into my arms. And it happened twice for me. So actually 3 times I gave one child away to a friend because, it just came to me very easy. So, I was told at that point it was going to take me 10 years to adopt a child. And less than a week, I had a child. So it's crazy. And so many other things that all through my life, even where I'm living right now, I had it on my vision board 10 years ago. And when I was moving, I pulled out all these old vision boards, and here was the condo that I'm living in now, a terrace with, it's just everything was what I had already put on my vision board. So I was already living it. So it was like, okay, since I was an unconscious competent, now I want to become a conscious competent. And now start doing what I do unconsciously, I want to do consciously. So Think and Grow Rich is an incredible book that if anybody hasn't read it, it's the type of book that you have to read over and over. Just open it up and just pick, one chapter and then keep on reading it because it's crazy what comes to you.
That's great. Yeah, it's a great book. I've read it several times. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but my youngest daughter was adopted also from China.
Oh, no, it wasn't.
Yeah. And the Chinese have a saying there. It's the right parents, wrong stomach for the adoption. So,
okay. I never heard about it in that way, but you know what? It's just a blessing. And
yes.
And that's all I look at it. My kids are now adults, and it has been just a normal situation. What happens when you're parenting children? There's ups and downs. But as long as you get to the point when your children, like mine now, are in their 30s, early 30s. And for me, it was always what my dream was, is that my kids will always want to spend time with me, not feel like they have to spend time with me. And that's a big change in life. I never wanted my children to feel like they have to, but knowing that they always love to and, just love to hang out, that says everything about, your connection between them. And really, when you have that really beautiful, healthy connection, what more can you ask for?
Exactly. The book that I always recommend to people is The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews. For me, it was life-changing. And it's a short read, and I read it within one day.
Nice.
Yeah, very well written, very powerful book. And again, for me, it was life-changing. And I thank the person who recommended it to me for doing that. Well, we're near the end of the episode. Again, can you tell people how to reach out to you so that they can contact you?
So if you're at all interested in making even some tweaks and changes to your life, you're not quite doing what you want to do, reach out to me at I am Glenda Kroll on Facebook or Wise Woman's Word on Instagram, or again, my email info@glendakroll, KROLL.com. I'm here to help you in any way that I possibly can. And stop thinking that you can't have the life that you want. Start thinking that you deserve the life that you want. Thank you, David, for bringing me on and allowing me to come and join you on this special day today. It's Tuesday, which means it's a treasure to be around on a Tuesday. Treasure Tuesdays.
Thanks so much, Glenda, for being a guest today. I really appreciate it. And I just want to give a shout out to Forbes Riley, because that's how we met, was through her Force Factor Live group. And I just want to thank Forbes for giving us the opportunity to connect with each other and to meet. So thanks again, Glenda, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you very much, David.
Thanks for listening to the Stop Dieting podcast. Remember to like and subscribe so you won't miss a single episode to get more healthy eating and lifestyle tips. Motivate and inspire others to be healthy by sharing with your friends.